Hey everyone, it's Bethany here at the Kenai Community Library, and today I want to talk to you guys about how to make a grass basket. Grass baskets are really fun to make and they're really inexpensive, but this one can actually cost you zero money. And in fact, if you really want to get crazy with it, you can make it cost absolutely nothing. I suggest you at least buy a tapestry needle just because that'll save you a little bit of time. But if you don't want to and you just want to go for it, that's okay too. So we're going to talk to you guys about how to make this grass basket and some of the stuff that you'll need, which you can find around you in your own backyard. All right, guys, so what we got here is we've just got some grass, and you really can use any type of grass you want. Different grass is going to dry to different colors on your basket, so sometimes getting a lot of different colors and seeing what color they dry to is kind of nice. Now, some grasses are going to be kind of difficult to use. What you want is you want ones with really long blades. So you can see that these are really long pieces of grass. So those are going to make really good for weaving because I won't have to change out my grass all the time. There's some other ones like beach rye, which work really good, blue joint. This is just lawn grass, so just grass from the lawn that just happened to grow really long. So we're going to use that because it's right here and it's really easy to get to. And we're going to show you guys how to dry it real quick here. All right, so one of the things to do is if you do decide to do with grass, you can either weave it directly into your basket, but then you're going to have to be sitting next to the grass all day, or you can pick it and dry it so that it's available for you at all times, and then you can weave even in the winter. How you dry grass is basically you just pick the grass and you want to lay it out in somewhere that's really sunny that doesn't have any water coming up. So you don't want to do it right on dirt. You want to do it on something like stone or concrete or gravel, something that won't have water coming up, making your grass get wet again. And so you're going to put it on that and put it in the sun. Depending on how thick your grass is, it may dry really fast. If it's really thick grass, it'll take a long time to dry, but you can basically just pick it up and put it in the house at the end of the day and then put it out the next day. Sometimes the grass will just dry in a day and you're set to go, and you can just put it in a bag and store it until you need it. If it takes a little longer to dry, you can even dry it in the house. Just set it somewhere that it won't get disturbed and has time to just kind of dry itself out without that extra sun boosting the speed of your drying process. And that's all you have to do. All right, guys, so now we are ready to start weaving. So I've picked myself a nice spot, so we're all set to go. But before we go, we have to decide whether we're using fresh grass or dried grass. If you're using fresh grass, it's just stuff that you just picked, and you're going to want to use it really quickly. So you're not going to want to wait a couple hours and then start. You're going to want to start, within the next half an hour, because eventually your grass will start drying out and become more brittle. As long as it stays a little bit wet, it will be really easy to weave with. But if it dries out all on its own, it gets brittle and starts breaking, and you know that you need to re-wet the grass. So if you're using fresh grass, just use it right away. If you're using dried grass, all you need to do is get it wet again. The easiest thing to do is take some of your dried grass and either stick it in like a vase, or you can stick it in like a little tote that's really long for it. Sometimes you can get one of those circular pans and it kind of just swirls around in there, but just stick it in that water. If I had a taller glass, it would look a lot cooler. But you just stick it in the water and it'll slowly soak in that water and it'll get nice and flexible again. And you want to put it in there for probably about a half an hour to an hour at least. Some of your thicker grasses might take longer. So things like beach rye might take 2 hours to soak before you can actually start using it. And that's okay. Just depending on the grass, it's kind of one of those things that you play around with until you find out what works with the grass you are using. So I'll let this soak here and I'll use some of this fresh stuff. Before I actually start weaving, I need to decide what I want to fill in the core of my basket. I usually like to use something like jute or twine, just because it has that kind of cool grass-like look, but it's nice and easy and isn't going to come unraveled on you. Some people just like to use dried grass, and you just take that grass and then you just wrap it with more grass. Whichever way you want to do it is perfectly fine. So if you decide to use jute, which is what I'm going to use today just because it's easier to show you guys what I'm doing, this is how you do it. If you're using grass, it's just a little bit more difficult, but it's okay. I bet you guys can do it, no problem. All right, so the first thing you want to do is you want to start by making a circle. Now, if you make a big circle, it's really easy to start, but you will have kind of like a hole in the bottom of your basket. Not a big deal. We can stitch kind of some grass over that to kind of hide the hole. But if you are a perfectionist and you really want it small, you can start with a really small hole. That one is probably about as small as I could get it without like gluing it together, which is another thing you guys can do. Don't think you can't use a little bit of Elmer's glue. That's perfectly fine. This is about having fun and enjoying a really easy craft. If it helps to just glue this circle together to start, go ahead and do it. I'm going to start with a bigger circle just so that you guys can see kind of what I'm doing. So what I want to do is I want to put 2 layers. So you can see here where I start, and I'm going to put that there's 2 layers of twine. And I want to wrap those together with a piece of grass. Now I don't need to use my needle at first when I'm doing this, because this hole's pretty big and I can use it just with my hands. Stick that through. And you can trim off the edges of your grass later, but what I like to do just to make it cleaner is I put the grass sticking toward the direction I'm going to weave. So I'm going to weave this way, so I have my little tail here and I'm weaving toward my tail all the way around. So I'm just going to take my grass and I'm going to weave in and out, making little circles. And I'm weaving it toward that direction of the tail. And this can be a little bit difficult. It's always harder to start it, and then once you get it started, then it goes a lot easier. So if it's a little frustrating at first, it's okay, just keep towards it. It'll get a lot easier as you go. And what you want to keep in mind is you're trying to get 2 pieces of that twine. So 2 widths of twine wrapped in there. And you can see I'm weaving toward this tail, and eventually I'm going to get it wrapped all the way around. So let's go ahead and fast forward to that. Alright guys, and remember, you guys can stop this video at any time if you want to rewind it and look at another step again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take my needle and I'm going to thread in some extra, a little bit of the extra on this grass here. And what I'm going to do is, this is the part where I actually start weaving as we think of weaving. Before I was just kind of wrapping the grass around, but now I'm going to actually start going through. So you can see where I started right here, and I started right here, and now I'm going to weave this one into my grass basket. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to poke in between the layers. So remember, there's 2 pieces of twine. So what I want is I want 1 piece above it and 1 piece below it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sandwiching in my unwoven grass between my layers. So here's my little tail, and I'm going to weave him in by pushing my needle through what I've just wrapped and putting 1 of the pieces of twine inside, but I'm basically pushing my needle between on the woven part and then sewing almost this next layer of grass to what I've already done. And basically every time I go around, I'm going to be able to add another layer and another layer, and so I'm gaining by 1 layer of the width of whatever my core is. So if I have a really thick core, this basket can go really fast. If I have a thin one, it's going to take a while, but it'll look really delicate. So it kind of depends on what look you're going for, what material you have. And now I just kind of keep sewing my way through. If I have little loose ends like this, I can sew those in. Sew my little ends in that I have that are loose. But I can also just pinch them off. So I have like this little scraggler guy. I can just go, boop, get off there. And look, now it all looks all nice and neat. And I'm just going to keep sewing it in. Now, here comes the part that everybody always asks about, and it comes up a lot because you're going to be sewing and then you eventually run out of grass. So let's just artificially start it here. Boop, I ran out of grass. So now I have this little tail, I have my little leftover remnant, and I need to add new grass. So I'm going to pinch this with my finger like that, and that way nothing moves, and I can thread in some new grass for weaving. All right, so I've got my needle threaded, and now I'm going to just push in. And I just put it in the same hole I just came out of. So I just pushed it in there. I'm going to go right same spot, and I'm going to push this little bit over into this tail. So all my little ends always go with my tail. That just keeps everything nice and neat. And then just pull it closed. And so now I can just keep weaving. All right, so let's go ahead and fast forward and see what it looks like once we're near the end of a basket. So say you want to go ahead and add another set of core in. Maybe you thought it would be long enough, the piece that you had, or you just happened to run out on the thing. What you can do is, easiest way, I'm just going to be 100% honest with you, a little bit of Elmer's glue. Just glue those two ends together and then just sew over it. No one will even know. You know, it's just Elmer's glue. It dries clear. It's perfect. If you want to be a little bit more difficult, just on yourself, because no one really, again, is going to know, you can try and just sew it right on, and it will work. You can just sew it right on. You just get to the end, push your grass through, pull tight, and there you go. Just sew it right on. And in case you guys are wondering, because you might notice that some of these are different colors, I've been experimenting using the different colors just to see what the different tones are. This top right here, this is beech rye that's been cut into small strips. Down here is blue joint. And then this is my famous yard grass. I call it yard grass. I don't know what it is. I should probably look into that. But it's what grows on the edge of my yard, and typically just in my yard, but when I miss some areas, they grow really long, and I get this nice, deep, rich green. So what you're going to want to do is you might have to, again, stitch the same area a couple times if it slips, because we're not using glue in this example, just to kind of give you guys a better, there we go. Now I got him. Now he's not going to move. And push it through. And perfect. You can see I've just got him right in there, and I can just push my grass around, make sure I've got him latched in there good. And this is now my new core, so I can just keep going. Now what you've probably noticed is that my grass basket is kind of going up. And how I determine whether my grass basket is flat or kind of goes up is depending on where I put this. Now, if I put it directly on top like this, it's just going to kind of slowly go out just a little bit, or I could even kind of push it so it's directly on top, completely straight. If I do completely straight, it'll be just a straight side. But if I wanted to widen it out, and so I could have a basket that kind of goes wider, I can put it directly to the side. And wherever I weave this in, that is how my basket is going to look. So I just have to kind of keep pushing it how I want it to go. Now I kind of want my basket to go up, so I'm going to just shove him up there like I like. Perfect. And then I'm going to keep going. So if you have to correct it a few times to go in the right direction, that is okay. And we just keep going. Now to finish your basket, say I'm at the end and I want to get done with this, I can actually just clip this off right here, and then with my little end, just sew it in, and it'll just completely disappear. And that gives you a really nice clean finish. You can leave it a little rough where you can see the edge kind of toughen out there, and that's perfectly fine. Or you can just sew him in, disguise him in there, so he just disappears. Don't lose your grass though. And I hope I'm not being too awful on you guys and the cameraman, because I know I keep moving how I have this basket, so I'm sorry. And so there, if we had clipped it off, this would just completely make it disappear and it would be completely gone. Now again, you guys can see really well here how I'm only going halfway down on this. See, this is the edge we have. And you can see that there's one line in here, and then there's a second line over here that are the two pieces of twine that are wrapped in that. And what I'm doing is I'm going between those. So I'm kind of cutting them in half and making it so now there's two pieces of twine wrapped between my newest layer. So that's what I'm doing to go all the way around and keep getting it bigger and bigger. Now, like I said, there are different cores. So I have this one, which is kind of like a medium. There's big ones like this, which could make a basket go super, super fast. So experiment around, try different things. If you want to use a grass core that's just full of just different pieces of grass, that's actually really nice because you can adjust it. So you can make your bands go really wide and then go really narrow and really wide and do kind of a decorative look with it. Or you could just make really wide ones that are wider than most of the cores that you'll normally be able to find in the store. Or you can make them really thin and make a really delicate, really small basket. And I say delicate, but here's the thing I want you to know about these grass baskets. They are really strong, stronger than you think. So I say it's delicate, but actually it's pretty darn tough stuff. So I want you guys to go ahead, have fun with this. If you have questions, feel free to come in and see me at the library. I would be happy to answer a few questions for you. And just keep enjoying basket weaving, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.